Welcome back to another video. In this one, we are comparing the FS7 to the FX9 and seeing if this is worth getting the upgrade to the FX9 if you already own an FS7, or actually they still sell the FS7, so do you want to invest in getting the FS7, which is quite a bit cheaper now than the FX9? And so right off the top, looking at both the cameras kind of side by side, sort of similar configurations. The FX9, you can see that the body is quite a bit bigger than the FS7, body-wise. I wouldn't say quite a bit, it's a bit bigger. But the FS7 right now has the back on it here. So this is the extension back that allows you to do the raw output, lets you to put a V-mount on it. And it also allows you to have timecode. There's no way to have timecode with the FS7 without this on the back of the camera. And so without that on, this camera actually becomes quite a bit shorter. This one on the FX9 does not have that on there. I have the extension unit. I don't really have a purpose in using it yet because the actual features that are going to be in the extension unit aren't there yet. The upgrade hasn't came for the raw output yet, and for the 120 frames per second 4K that you can be able to do externally with the extension unit for the FX9. It's a different extension unit, and it's actually quite a bit larger too, so it makes the camera very long. But that's not available yet, or the upgrade, sorry, is not available yet. So it's basically just a giant glorified V-mount holder for the camera as of present. So I'm not using it really now. I will be using it once that new firmware comes up. So with that, then the cameras are, it's lighter than this as well. Now I'm using some other features on this, which I'm talking about in another video, how I kit out my camera, what I'm using here. But those features are otherwise the body, the top plates. This was a top plate I was using on this camera before in the FS7, and they both fit. The hole patterns and stuff on the top of the cameras fit to put a top plate from the FS7 over here. So what are some of the features like both cameras have, and what are the benefits, and what are the things why you might upgrade to the FX9? So both cameras use the XQD cards for recording. They both shoot in 4K. You can't do anything higher than 4K. They both can do frame rates of 4K 60 in Super 35 mode. On the FS7, the sensor is only a Super 35 sensor. This is a full frame camera. On the full frame on this, you can't do any slow motion now. You can do up to 30 frames per second, and that is it. But if you go down to the Super 35 crop sensor onto this, on the FX9, then you can also do the same frame rates back and forth. You can shoot 120 frames per second, 1080p on the FX7, and you can also do the same thing on the FX9. Now, so those things are very similar on the cameras. Actually, the codecs are, I believe, exactly the same on both the cameras. So what are the different things and what are the benefits of the FX9? So for me, I already had the FS7. Why I invested some money into buying this other camera, it was from seeing the tests online. For the first big thing for me was the new color science that was in this camera. So I had the FS7 for 5 years. I used it extensively. I've used it on hundreds of different videos, hundreds of different projects over that time. Some featured documentary work, some broadcast commercial work, web content, a ton of different things. It's kind of, it's got some, it's been used. It's been used well. It's got some marks and stuff on it, some scruffs on it. Camera's definitely been used. It was a great investment. It's probably one of my best investments in a camera in a long time because of having it for so long and how popular a camera it was for broadcast work and for documentary work, for a lot of stuff I shoot. It was an extremely popular camera, and we don't know this yet, but I am suspecting that the FX9 is also going to be a similar thing with the price point and the features that it has. And before the FS7, my main camera then was the Canon C300, not the Mark II, just the first Mark I C300. And I loved that camera. I loved the color science on that camera. I loved the Canon colors, and I was always disappointed when I moved over to Sony when I got this, with S-Log2 and with Sony's colors. I always found them very difficult to dial in. I thought the Canon stuff was very easy to get looking awesome. When I started seeing footage of the FX9 coming out and they talked about the new sensor on this and the new color science, that's one of the big things that really got me excited about this camera. I was like, wow, this is, looks amazing. And I can say that this camera is awesome and the colors off of it are much better than the FS7. I'm going to be doing in a later video a side-by-side comparison with the S-Log2 and S-Log3 of both the cameras and seeing how well you can match the cameras and the differences that way. But I am loving the images straight out of the camera on this are awesome. So going more into the FX9 and the features on this that are different than the features on the FS7 and the reasons, some of the other big reasons why I decided to invest in it and why I think it was a great investment. So one of the very big things for me was the autofocus. And after seeing the autofocus working on this and how well the autofocus was working, I was super impressed and I really wanted to use and be able to use autofocus more and more. I do a lot of work where it's myself going out, maybe myself and an assistant, maybe a sound recordist, usually very small crews. And a lot of times when I'm conducting interviews, I am also doing the interview. So I'll be asking the questions and I'm also operating the camera in a lot of cases. And in that, I find myself always looking at the monitor, always checking focus, which can a lot of times shift people's eye lines over to the monitor because they see you looking at that and not at them. And it causes some interruption during the interview. So I wanted to be able to have autofocus that I could just set up and lock, let it run, and it would track somebody perfectly, and I could do it with a fast lens. Because again, a ton of the documentary and style of work we're doing, we're not in a studio, we're not in a place where we're set dressing the background really. A lot of times, we're using a very fast lens, a really wide open aperture, more to get us the background looking kind of pretty and blown out or, blurred out as much as we can because the background isn't that exciting. So being able to do that with a camera like this and be able to trust the autofocus, I've said that I've been using this camera for about 3 weeks now. The autofocus is amazing. It's really amazing. I'm going to be doing another video on that, on which lenses are working the best and what lenses I'm using. This is the 28 to 135 I got with the camera. I got the kit that way. I used this lens before. Past years using it on my FS7. I didn't really like it because I do not like the way this manually feels for pulling focus, other things in the lens, but the autofocus on this is awesome. And I can go out and do a lot of dock kind of style shooting with this and get a great range. I've also been using Sigma Glass and Sigma Art Series lenses with the Sigma adapter, and the autofocus has been working great on that with face tracking technology. So later video, I'm going to be going more into that and testing some different lenses, testing some Canon lenses with Metabones and Sigma lenses that are native E and some native Sony glasses and seeing which ones are the best. And you guys can make a judgment from there. But autofocus, again, was a big thing. And I really, say 2 years ago, I'd say, I'm never really going to use autofocus. Because stuff wasn't working that well then for the type of work we were doing. Right now I can say, especially for something like an interview where you have somebody locked off there and you're looking at their face, the face tracking with this is awesome. Next thing that is not new just to this camera, because this is the FS7 Mark I. The FS7 Mark II has the locking E-mount, which I find more of a pain in the butt than actually a better feature. But they also both have the variable ND. And I had an FS5 Mark II before, which had a variable ND. I love it. It's amazing. The variable ND on this is so good. You can really dial it in. And actually what I've been doing lately, I've been outside shooting in the wintertime here quite a bit in Canada. So when it's been very bright out and a lot of snow, there's a ton of reflection. So even with a high bright monitor on and using EVF, sometimes it's very hard for me to see and to gauge exposure. So I was doing a shoot the other day and I was doing autofocus and I was doing the auto ND and it was working awesome. Really, really well. Very impressed with how well it worked and kept my exposure in there correctly. And exposure was changing really quickly with cloud coverage coming over. So it was doing it faster than I could go in there and tweak it and looking at that. And again, I was getting blinded by how bright it was outside. So that was an awesome, awesome feature. The next feature on this that makes it worth the upgrade over the FS7 or the FS7 Mark II is the dual ISO. Again, dual ISO was something I didn't really think too much about until I got my Blackmagic Pocket 4K in the summertime last year, and I started using that dual ISO on different jobs and when we're shooting in lower light scenarios and brighter scenarios and seeing how well it worked, and I was blown away. I really don't know how the science works on a dual ISO sensor, but it works awesome. I have it set on one of these buttons here where I can switch from the native when you're in S-Log 3. I can switch from the native 800 to the 4000, and the 4000 is bright. And what I found is in a lot of scenarios when I start feeling like it's getting a little bit low light when I'm in the 800 ISO range, it's actually cleaner to go up to the 4000 and then start going NDing down to get your red exposure, and images looked amazing. So that's been a big deal, really helped out, really make things quicker for me to go back between scenarios, and I can just have it as a button where I can jump back and forth between the two is great. And the last feature for me on this camera over the FS7 is the full frame. So it's not the most important feature for me, but having that full frame is great. There is a lot of scenarios right now because you can't do slow-mo in the full frame that I'm shooting in the Super 35 mode. I'm going to be doing a shoot tomorrow where I really want to be able to switch back and forth quickly between 60 frames per second and 24 frames per second. So I'm probably going to shoot the whole project on the Super 35 crop sensor, so it's quicker for me to do that. And so on the full frame sensor is that you're getting a 6K scan of the image, and the 6K scan of the sensor, is going down to a 4K image. And so that 6K to 4K, the way that Sony explains that is that's what's making the image so clean, is because you're going from 6K to 4K and you're scaling down. Those are the key features for me between the two cameras. If you guys know some other features, what you think differentiate these two cameras, let me know in the comments. Let the other people know in the comments here. Let me know if I missed something. These are the big things that were the selling points for me. And as I said, I do agree that this was a great upgrade for me. I think it's going to be one of the big asked for cameras for a lot of the type of work that I do, for broadcast work, for documentary work. This is going to be, I think, the new go-to camera. But the FS7 is still a very capable camera and an awesome investment as well. So I'll leave it up to you guys on what you think is the best camera to fit your needs and your scenarios. Let me know in the comments what you think. Please think of subscribing to this channel if you'd like to see more content like this. Please hit that bell if you want to get notified, and we'll see you on the next video.